The class today is writing effective ad copy. I am the marketing coordinator, John Baxter, here at Santa Fe Properties. And what I really want this to be as much as a class is a discussion. So I'm hoping you'll have really good questions, any questions about ad copy. Feel free to throw them out anytime, especially as we're going along, if something strikes your interest or you have something to say or something to suggest. So let's begin. Now when we talk about writing ad copy, there's all kinds of ways to get ad copy out. Print advertising, an open house map page ad, an ad in the Mexican, an ad in a national publication. But what we're really meaning when we talk about ad copy is web copy, something that's going to be on the Santa Fe Properties web page, and also copy that's going to carry over to all these national sites like Zillow and Trulia, all the sites that feed from MLS. Now, of course, Paragon and MLS is an independent system from the link and our web page, but usually those two sets of copies are the same. You upload one and that one goes to the link. You make changes to another one as the months go by perhaps, and then you also want to update the link. They're not always 100% the same, but they're very similar, and they should be. And that's good to keep in mind because the link, our system, feeds to the Santa Fe Properties website. Paragon feeds to all those national sites, Zillow, Trulia. So it's good to be very consistent between the two of them. Incidentally, those of you who advertise on Luxury Portfolio with your $1 million plus listings, that copy actually does come from the Santa Fe Properties website. And of course can be edited independently too. So it's good to always keep that in mind. There's multiple sources for your copy, so unless there's a really compelling reason to, it's good to keep those things sort of similar so you're sending the same message out all the time.
So if you have a personal web page, are the comments being pulled from Paragon?
Yes, if you're set up for an IDX feed, that will come from Paragon as well. IDX feed feeds all of the websites from Paragon to Zillow, Trulia, and personal websites where you purchased an IDX feed, Luxury Portfolio. So, because of that, when I talk about ad copy today, I want to start focus on the website copy because one, it has the most exposure that your listing is ever going to get. Dozens and dozens of websites, possibly seen by tens of thousands of people. And two, it is the most copy that you're going to get. When you're on the Santa Fe Properties website, your copy is presented with all this great, beautiful photography that our photographer takes. You know, bedroom, bathroom counts, price. Here at the bottom, there's information on neighborhoods, schools. So what we would call sort of that boilerplate kind of information is already presented, framed around your copy. So when you think about your copy, this one shouldn't be so much about bedroom, bathroom counts, the dry facts that describe a home. That doesn't mean you can't put it in there. You know, we're going to talk about that. But the copy should be where you really tell the story of your listing. How many of you have gone into your page on the link and edited your website copy before? I'm seeing 0 hands. How many of you knew that you could go into the link and edit your website copy? A couple people. When we started, when we revamped our website a couple of years ago, and we decided to open up that pipeline to all of you so that you could go into the link yourselves and change and edit your copy. One other thing I want to point out about the link is that in addition to the large website copy, there's a little space to save what we call print ad short copy, about 200 characters worth. The reason it's 200 characters is that that's the most amount of copy that can go into a New Mexican open house map page ad. There's room for that, room to put in your own headline too. And I have to say that these fields are not very well utilized. A lot of brokers will turn in their copy, but not write their short ad copy, not write their headline. So if we put an ad together for you, usually I will do that. I will come up with a headline if necessary. I will boil down your short ad copy. And I'm happy to do it. But it's a mistake to leave that to me because you are the ones talking to your sellers. You understand what best should be said about an ad or a listing if you only have, a couple, 3, 4 sentences to say. So I encourage you to write your short ad copy along with your web copy and also come up with a really great headline to promote your listing for that time down the road when you might want to put a print ad in or an open house ad or something like that. But you can edit your web copy, you can edit your short ad copy, and you can write and edit your headlines as well too.
How do you get to that?
Well, you log into the link like you would to pull down like an ad form or the other side.
Right.
And then go to your listing, and then at the top there's a tab that says Write Up, and you can go there. Sue?
On the copy, to edit it,
Yes.
I noticed that if I edited the top,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't really save it to everywhere else. If I edit the bottom, which has the hyperlink stuff and all the sort of the
Correct.
website language,
Yes.
then that saves.
Right. Let me explain what that is.
Okay.
I took a little snippet of the screen. Right above the website copy, we republish what's in Paragon, just so it's there so we can see it. Also, there's a couple of other reasons we do it. Like if this field is left blank, it'll pick up the Paragon copy so it displays on the web page. You understand what I'm saying by that? If there's no web copy for some reason saved in the link, it'll carry over the Paragon copy. So we park the copy from Paragon here at the top of where I cut it off on the screen. You can't edit this copy, the copy that's on top. That you have to go into Paragon and change. That's just like a courtesy reprint of Paragon. This one, the custom web copy, this is the copy that you can edit. And when you make these changes, they instantaneously save over to the public side, SantaFeProperties.com.
If you change the Paragon copy, will it change the copy that's pasted above the link?
Yes, in about an hour. It'll
Okay.
update in about an hour.
But
Okay.
it won't save to the website.
No, these two fields are independent. So keep that in mind. That's a very good question. If you have to really revamp your copy across the board, what you change in Paragon does not automatically feed to the link. Same thing, if you change the link, it won't backfeed to the Paragon. You have to copy and paste one to the other. All right, so I want to sort of start off with just some of that stuff. Now let's actually get to it and talk about your writing good head copy. Rule number one, if we can call them rules, is tell a story about the listing. As I showed you on the Santa Fe Properties website, things like bedroom, bathroom counts, those are already presented. What you want to do with your ad copy is you want to say something about the listing. What makes this listing special? As professional real estate agents, you've been there, you've looked at it, you've probably got a really good idea what the selling points are. Great kitchen, great views. What is really the story of that listing? What makes it special? And if you have a problem figuring that out, talk to your seller. Why did they buy it? What was it about that home that they thought was so special? You want to tell the story of the listing. Now, I come to this company in a background in journalism. And in journalism, they teach you of the inverted pyramid, which is the very first thing you say is the most important thing in the story. The thing after is second, thing after is third, blah, 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 all the way down to the bottom of the story. You want to stack the most important things first, so that people just skim or just read a few paragraphs, they catch the most important things. So in the story of your listing, you want to talk about the most important things first. You don't have to automatically say the living room is this, the kitchen is that, the bedroom plan is this, unless perhaps those are the most important things. If the thing that makes your listing special is it's got incredible Jemez Mountain views, and the rest of the house is, just a house, lead off with the views, because that's what makes it special. If it's got great views and a great floor plan and traditional southwestern elements, 1, 2, 3, those are the things that make your home special. Now you are going to want to talk about the things about the listing that are important, what the living room's like, what the kitchen is like. Those things belong in the story. But the emphasis at the top, what you lead in with, should be those important elements. Now you want to highlight the features, but you don't want to exaggerate. Some features are going to be more desirable than others. If it's got a Wolf stove and a Sub-Zero refrigerator and Gen-Air appliances, those are great features. You want to highlight those. But highlight the things that are really great about the home, that make it unique, that make it desirable for someone to buy. But don't exaggerate. If you're on the fringes of, say, the historic East Side, don't say historic East Side home, because sellers will know. They'll know you're exaggerating. People possibly looking to buy the home are not going to be happy if they come and see it and decide that you've exaggerated the features in their copy. You can get into trouble too if you really over-exaggerate the properties of a home. Highlight what's good about the home and let those highlights speak for themselves. Now, many of you are familiar with and have met Paul Boomsma. And here I've said Paul Boomsma enjoys the quality of life. When I was researching for this class, went to a lot of sources, and I found a great article in the Wall Street Journal, and I'll make sure there's a link included with the materials, with a bunch of quotes from some real estate professionals. And Paul Boomsma, who is president of Luxury Portfolio and a high board member of Leading RE, made the point in this article that he doesn't like to describe who the home should go to. He likes to describe the quality of life that the home offers. So for example, instead of saying, this Las Campanas home means you can enjoy great golf every day of the week, this home is close to world-class golf. Describe the features, the quality of life that a listing can provide, and not really pinpoint it to what a person will or will not enjoy about being there. Okay, language counts. As I said, you want to start with a clear headline or lead sentence. Now in print ad, remember I was showing you the fields in the link. You have a short ad copy field where you could save copy for like an open house map page ad, and also we pull that copy if you were doing like a little newspaper ad. There's also room to save a headline. On the web page, however, there's no separate headline. So make that very first sentence of the copy in the web copy, the long copy, stand in place of a headline. Let it do the duty of really describing the emphasis of what the story of the home is. Another thing is use the active voice. I had a little fun here. The passive voice is the voice to avoid. Now the traditional example people give you in school is active voice, John hit the ball. Passive voice, the ball was hit by John. Well, translating that into a real estate ad copy situation, you might say something like, this home has 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and an open galley kitchen. Whereas the passive voice would be, a galley kitchen will be found inside the home. Those sentences generally are kind of cumbersome to read. So good active voice sentences are usually the rule. Fred?
When you see these ads that you're putting into the New Mexican, etc., do you ever contact us and say, this is a weak ad, it should be improved?
Yes and no.
Probably
Well,
all of us.
improving. It's improving.
You'd be doing that for everybody.
Well, usually we're chasing the New Mexicans' deadlines. So when we're getting an ad together to put in like an open house map page, you know, I use my best judgment to get your ad completed. If there's no short ad copy, I go to the web and your web copy, and I try to capture the heart of what I think a good short description of the ad would be. When I do contact brokers, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a bit, is when there's something that's really bad, like a violation of HUD. That's when you might hear back from me for sure, because there's a problem with the copy. But I don't really go back to brokers, and maybe I should, but I don't go back to brokers and say, I think your ad copy is kind of weak. I would never say anything like that anyway. But
We all had
and you know, there are a lot of reasons. Some of them aren't good. You know, one is time, of course, and there's like 100 brokers and all that too. But also, by the time your copy gets to the Santa Fe Properties website and it's published, I don't know that you haven't already met with your sellers, and they might love the copy, or at the very least, sign off on what you're saying. So in a situation like that, it's not really my place to tell you, you need to scrap it. And there's some things that I do to your copy every single day that I'm about to tell you about here in a couple of slides. So to answer your question, no, I don't really come back and critique brokers on their ad copy. But I'm always looking at it, and I'm always doing what I can do in a soft kind of way to make it better. So I'm going to move on in that second, but let me finish my thoughts about the language. Now I've said that Blaise Pascal said it best. Blaise Pascal was a French mathematician and philosopher, and he very famously, in a letter he wrote to a friend, apologized for writing such a long letter because he didn't have time to write a short one. The idea being that it is difficult to concisely say something where it is so much easier to just write and write and write until you feel like you've said something. You know, brevity is the soul of certainly real estate marketing, if not also wit. And so it's always good to write just enough to sell or to tell the story of your listing and not really expand with unnecessary language. And I want to say something in particular about adjectives. I hate them. I think adjectives are the weakest form of writing. And just so we're on the same page by adjectives, of course, I mean the beautiful home, the spacious living room, the lovely landscaping, the magnificent mountain views. Now, there's something to be said for using some of those descriptors. And I'm not saying don't use them, but too many of them really cheapen the language. And remember, on our website, this copy is sitting below all these beautiful photos that we've taken of the listing. So you don't have to say that the view is beautiful. There's a photo of the beautiful view. You don't have to say that the living room is spacious. The room is spacious. It shows in the photo. Also, many of these are subject to interpretation. Who's to say that a living room is beautiful? And what I really think is weak, what I think is really bad copy, is using multiple adjectives to describe a room or a feature. This beautiful, charming, spacious East Side condo. Instead, simply describe the features and let people read that and understand for themselves that this is the kind of home they might want. It's kind of spacious. You don't have to call a home spacious if you've listed the square footage. That square footage will say that it's a spacious home. You don't have to say that a room is beautiful if you have several beautiful photos of that room. Too many adjectives are not good. Yes?
I think some of us are driven by when we look at each other's ad copy,
Right.
that we feel like compelled to put in a zillion words.
Sure. Susie?
A picture is worth 1,000 words, but a lot of the buyers sometimes don't trust the pictures because, whatever.
Sure.
So backing up the pictures with some adjectives sometimes or very often, is helpful.
Well, I'm not saying don't use any adjectives, but you got to be careful, because when you say a charming home, do you mean charming in that it's full of charm, or are you implying that it's small? Some of those things are subject to interpretation and misinterpretation.
Right.
In high school, I had an English teacher that I hated, but she taught me one thing. She said over and over again to exclaim everything, to beautiful, spacious, pop everything, is to pop nothing at all.
Yes.
You've just negated everything you said because you
Right.
said
Too much.
you got too ridiculous.
All right.
Right.
Write and then rewrite. I had already touched on that, but after you're done with your copy, let it sit for a while, come back to it, edit it one more time. Because it's always easy to, words like that, things that we speak in conversation about, it's always good to trim those out a little bit, tighten the sentence, see if things really flow nicely, if you've got good sentence structure. If you really read it and said, well, that looks like a home I would want to look at. Anything, no matter how good it is, can stand a rewrite at some point in time. Now, having given you these rules, I want to introduce the concept, make a rule, break a rule. If it adds to the strength of the overall piece, by all means, break the rule. All right, now, some do's and don'ts. Okay, you want to be specific, and brand names count. So if you're putting in brand names, you want to make sure you spell them correctly. Jacuzzi is capitalized. Corian is capitalized. Just as Pinon Pine is not capitalized, but Douglas Fir is. Because Douglas Fir is named after someone. Pinon is just a word that describes the pines. Nambe Pueblo, Pueblo is capitalized, but Pueblo-style home is not capitalized. Too many capital letters in copy is a distraction. And in fact, here on number 3, I'm saying you should avoid casual capitalization. The kitchen has granite countertops, capital K, capital G, capital C for countertops. And you don't capitalize anything but proper nouns. You don't want to use capitalization to emphasize the kitchen. You only want to capitalize proper nouns. And all uppercase, don't ever use that. This home is beautiful. That is not good. Uppercase letters are hard to read. They're a distraction. They pause the eye when you're reading, especially if you use a lot of uppercase. It's actually a social faux pas, bad etiquette to use all uppercase in emails, for example. And, as I said, we're always watching you, so when I get copy that has all uppercase, I change it back to lowercase anyways.
I heard that it's we're using uppercase when you're emailing. It's like shouting.
Yes, exactly. It's like shouting. You don't want to shout in your ad copy. You want the ad copy to be so good that it speaks for itself. So don't uppercase. And here I've said don't abbreviate, and I want to be very clear on what I mean by that. In your long ad copy, don't abbreviate words like road or street. Don't use the ampersand instead of the word ad. And in your long copy, you want words to flow. You want them to be easy to read. But I want to be clear, when I say don't abbreviate, I'm talking about long copy. If you're doing a short, open house ad, yes, abbreviations are good because you only have 200 characters to describe the home. So an ampersand instead of an and, or using w/ for with, that is good and acceptable. And that's why it's good for you to write your own short ad copy. So you can make those decisions and not leave it to me when you're putting your open house ad in. Now, I think I've already touched on this, but always write your long format advertising copy in complete sentences. One thing that's really weak in ad copy that we see from the competitors, sometimes us too, but it's just a long list of features. Tile counters, comma. Landscape yard, comma. Central AC, comma. 3-car garage, comma. Those are weak sentences. Turn those into sentences. The backyard has a landscape patio. The home can be kept comfortable in the summer because of central air conditioning. Long copy deserves full, complete sentences. Now again, I don't know about the conversations you might have had with your sellers. So when I edit your copy, I do it very gently. I'm very soft on the edits. I will try to do the least amount of word changes possible to turn a sentence fragment into a full sentence, because I don't want to mess up any sort of agreement or you've had with your sellers about the copy. If they've signed off on it, I really want to leave it as intact as it was originally. But we do insist on full sentences. We don't leave abbreviations. We don't leave ampersands. We don't leave all uppercase words. And we avoid and remove casual capitalization. And finally, I want to say one more thing about some do's and don'ts. When punctuating, ask yourself, what would Machiavelli do? Famous Renaissance kingmaker in the day, and I've sort of paraphrased him on this to say that punctuation is my slave, not my master. For example, does anybody know what the Oxford comma is? In some writing, if you have a list, the dog, cat, and ball, you'd put a comma after cat. That's the Oxford comma. Well, we don't use those because it's just one more piece of punctuation to slow down the reading.
But you just put dog, comma,
Cat and ball.
cat and ball.
I'd eliminate that second comma, the Oxford
yes.
comma.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it in such terms of, well, am I 100% adhering to the so-called rules of punctuation? I want the sentence to read well, and I want it to flow.
Sometimes I try to read the sentences, especially a long one, read the sentences out loud or out loud in my head.
Yes.
And if I can't take a breath, I need a comma there.
Yes, that's fine. Now, we've talked a lot about writing good copy, writing good advertising copy. But some of the questions we might have are, what do you have to do? What is required? Well, in the New Mexico Real Estate License Law and Real Estate Commission rules, all advertising copy shall be true and factual representation of the property. It shall not be presented in a manner that will confuse or mislead the public. I think that kind of speaks for itself. You have to be truthful and you have to be accurate. And you can't use tricky wording to not describe maybe a deficiency of a home or something like that.
Does poetic license count?
Poetic license is always acceptable if it doesn't confuse the issue. We sell, like all agencies, we have a lot of fixer-uppers, and people always want to put the best face on it that they can. That's a good use of poetic license. But if the foundation is cracked, you can't poetic license your way around that. That's a misrepresentation of the property. At a minimum use, the trade name and current brokerage office telephone number have to be in the ad. Now, on our website, it's branded with Santa Fe Properties and with our name. You don't have to add those things to add copy going on the website. But if you buy a classified ad, for example, it's got to say Santa Fe Properties, it's got to have our legal phone number, 505-982-4466. You're probably going to want to also include your cell phone number, but you have to have our name, and you have to have our legal phone number. A broker advertising property that he or she owns has to indicate that he or she is the owner. And I think it's also true, this is a shortening of that, but when you represent a property owned by another licensed real estate broker, you also have to disclose. Now in short ads, like a classified ad, it's okay to say owner broker, but on website copy and on long copy, we fill out the entire sentence, owner is a licensed New Mexico real estate broker. We don't abbreviate that, we fill out the entire sentence, just to make sure we're in compliance with these rules and regulations. All advertising must be in compliance with local, state, and federal laws and regulations. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an authority on this. There's a zillion regulations that govern real estate. But we're going to talk about HUD here in a second. And then these regulations apply to all forms of advertising, online and in print. So any kind of ad you have, you've got to adhere to these regulations. You've got to have our name, you've got to have our phone number, owner, broker, can't misrepresent the property.
Family room, is that a permissible word?
Yes, yes. 2000.
Yeah, I
Liz?
wanted to say as a reminder that Bill Howard had said the best rule of thumb to use when you're writing copy, if it's describing the property, it's allowed. If it's describing a person, it is not allowed.
Fact.
Okay, so if that makes sense.
Correct.
Okay?
Is there?
Family room, because that's describing the room, the property. If you were saying family home, it's not, that's talking about a person. So in other words, you're saying it's not good enough for a single person or a widow person. So when you're describing the person, that's a good rule of thumb to have.
So what about man cave?
That's legal.
I would
Let's
say
go build a
that one's not. I would say that one is allowable if you state it for what it is. This home has a den, a kitchen, and a man cave, perfect.
That's
for-
saying you can't have women in there?
Well,
No, women,
Yes.
you have a sewing room.
Women aren't allowed.
that's a good question, Sue, because someone in this room likes to call out a mom-in-law's apartment on certain listings.
What?
No dog. But
Mom-in-law?
you can describe the room in those sort of terms.
Yeah, he did say mother-in-law quarters was okay because that becomes a standard, and again, that's describing the property. So, you know, sometimes you might say, oh, this doesn't feel that good, but there's different ways to say things. But anytime you're describing a person, that has to be a red flag to you.
You know, the term single-family home is common in real estate, but you can't say that a home is perfect for the family.
Or for a
Because-
single person.
Or for a single person.
Yeah.
Because that is straight up steering, and steering is a HUD violation. We do have that list of HUD watchwords, and we've actually just revised it for 2015. And
Are we gonna get a copy
Yes.
of the revision?
yes, it's under review, and once we're done, we'll make it available in the link, and I'm going to attach it to the handout that we're going to make available in this presentation.
So on a headline, for example, you couldn't say sort of calling more artists, writers, that sort of thing.
Boy, that's kind of a gray area. I would say we have done stuff like that. We've advertised homes, like we've had promotions for homes. I would say yes.
Yeah,
Because
that isn't really describing the person, that's more describing an occupation. So, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, artists and writers, I guess, want privacy. So, you know, but why would you even say that? You know, there might be someone out there that wants the privacy that isn't an artist. So if your opening line is saying that, you're kind of limiting. You know, if the strong key is privacy, privacy can be for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially the way you say it. How do you say that? Privacy. There, privacy. Yes. So, but you know, I'm just saying that sometimes we limit ourselves in what we're trying to say. And if we're doing that with those words, then you're not catching those other people,
Okay.
because you're catching them with those headlines.
Yeah.
You know, the headline is the catcher.
Right.
And really the goal is with your ads to get the call to you, right?
Right.
So,
Right. So HUD violations, and yes, Greg, we're gonna redistribute the list, and like I said, I'm gonna attach it to the handout that I'm going to make available after this presentation. I'm gonna take my slides and we're gonna augment them with some of the points that came up from the discussion that we had today. And steering, we already touched upon it too. You can't steer a buyer to a home or away from a home. That's why you can't call out that a home is in the Wood Gormley School District, because that's steering affluent people supposedly to the home. You can say a home is close to schools. That's a geographic fact.
I'm sorry, what did you say? The whole what?
You can say a home is close to schools, but you can't say that it's in the Wood Gormley School District, because that's a violation of the spirit of HUD. That's steering. As Liz said, describe the property, not the customer. It's the property that is selling the house, the features of the property.
So the old-fashioned idea of a starter home,
Can't say it.
retirement home.
Is it like at Montecito?
Well, it could be. Yeah. It's just, it's a small home that could be ideal for a beginner or an ending.
So a first-time home buyer would fit that home?
Well, first time home buyer.
First or last.
Therefore, yeah, well, I can see that that is limiting the potential of the
Right.
property by stating a
Right.
beginning or an ending
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you don't want to say that,
yeah.
because
Okay. What about the home that has ramps and whatever for the disabled? You can't say that?
no.
Well,
Only an ADA certified architect or engineer can certify that a home is ADA accessible. And the words handicapped and disabled should never be used. Ever.
ADA, I mean,
Yeah, but
ADA.
if you're going to put that, you need to make sure that it does comply. Because it's like anything, if you start to say that it is that, and then it isn't, you're gonna get caught in some kind of legal entanglement for the use of words if it really wasn't the case,
Yeah.
okay?
and then you have to pay to put ramps all over the house.
The book of regulations for ADA certification is this thick. It's huge. It's not just ramps. It's a million little things.
It's
All
doorways, it's hallways, it's access.
The
there's
height of the
so many
sink and the
things.
bathroom.
So
Yeah.
unless you have it certified, I wouldn't be putting that in there.
Right.
You know, if
exactly.
someone really wants that, then they're going to be doing that investigation. But if you're putting that it is, then you're advertising and you're taking the liability that what you're saying is.
You can say that there's a
Gradual sloping stairway.
You can say that there's a ramp. A ramp is a feature. You can say there's a ramp. Absolutely.
And that there's wide doorways.
Absolutely. You can say 36-inch wide doorways, 40-inch wide doorways.
Okay.
You can describe the features of a home, but no one here in this room is qualified to certify that a home is ADA accessible.
Right.
And even if you can say that, don't ever use the word handicap, don't ever use the word disabled. Never. Don't ever use those two words.
Wheelchair
Challenge.
accessible?
Just ADA accessible.
Security system.
If it is so certified, it is ADA accessible, nothing more. Because ADA accessibility is more than mobility and wheelchair. It's a whole host of things.
Yeah, but if it is wheelchair accessible, you could say that if you know it's wheelchair accessible.
Yeah,
You're
yes,
not
you
saying
can say it's
ADA.
wheelchair accessible, but
Right.
don't say something like perfect for a wheelchair user. And again, don't say anything about its accessibility unless it's truly certified as such by a licensed architect or engineer. And then they carry the E&O liability on their licensure. Does that make sense? I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about HUD and our interpretation of it. And omitting words with potential legal liability is also a requirement. You can't say that a neighborhood is safe. You can't say that a home is well maintained. You can't say that a home has a bonus room perfect for a bedroom. Because all of those things imply a legal responsibility if they're not true. You may say the home is well maintained, but if a buyer buys it and the foundation is cracked, you're quite likely going to face a lawsuit because you advertise it as being well maintained. If you say a neighborhood is safe and they're a victim of crime, again, you've taken the liability of asserting that it was a safe neighborhood. And a bonus room means nothing. You can't say that a bonus room can be used for a bedroom or a den or anything else because there are all kinds of legal requirements to define those rooms.
Yeah, I think some of you have heard me say that we had a legal claim actually over the term bonus room, and it was
Yeah.
a triple figure settlement. Okay, and it all ranged from, they were gonna use it as an office, but really under the city planning and zoning and all their rules, it wasn't in compliance. You have to have a certain amount of windows, they have to be certain size, doorways, access, and it didn't meet any of those. And then to find out, when the owners started doing further investigation, it wasn't even built properly, where if the owner wanted to make those changes to comply, that they could have done that. So it really was horrible.
But I don't understand this well-maintained, because, you know,
That's what the appraisal is for. That's what the inspection is for.
That's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder. Well-maintained, you know.
so you can't say fixer-upper either.
Sure you can.
No, because, you know, what you wanna fix may not be maybe acceptable to somebody else who doesn't wanna.
You can
fix.
describe the most beautiful millionaire's mansion as a fixer-upper if you want to. Fixer-upper just implies that there are things that can be improved upon. But you can't say that the lowliest hovel is a millionaire's mansion, because that's not true.
But it is a fixer-upper also.
You can call it fixer-upper. That is specifically included in acceptable living.
Okay.
If you have to err, always err on the side of caution.
I know I've stopped using the verbiage well-maintained.
Absolutely.
Is cared for okay?
No. Cared for is a synonym for well-maintained.
So how do you describe a home that you're impressed with that appears to be well-maintained or cared
Could you say pride of
for?
ownership?
Sue just said pride of ownership. Is that allowed?
Yes. Yes.
How about lovingly?
We've gone around on that, and we've come on the side of not having it. And anything that says maintained in a listing sort of raises a red flag for us. You can say a home is clean. Clean is something that can be fixed or changed. You know, we're not saying that you can't say something positive about the house, but anything that speaks to the maintenance of a home,
Okay.
you are not in a position to make that as a legally binding assertion. That is why all those mini stops and checks in the real estate transactions are there, to have inspections, to have disclosure statements. Those are what those are there for.
But really, if you're having an inspection done and you feel that they've done everything on there, and you have it re-inspected and it says it's in great order, and you give someone that inspection as part of your package, aren't you essentially giving an expert's report to someone? So in the instance of your question, if you have all this done, why can't you say that? Well, a better thing is you have it with your package and your flyer, and voila, there you go.
But you have to get that potential buyer to look at the property in the first place, or to even look at your ad.
Things like saying home is maintained, that's very cringy for us, because you know, you're one cracked foundation away from a lawsuit.
Seller says this is a well-maintained home.
No.
No.
No, it's your name on the ad. You're the one that's asserting that everything in the ad copy is true.
Thank you for saying that, because we had another lawsuit because it said it was City of Santa Fe Utilities, and it was a septic, and that wasn't verified. The owner said it was city, okay, the broker believed them, the buyer files a claim. Guess what? Do you think the seller stood up and said, oh, my bad, I'll take care of it? Like, you advertised it, you listed it, you sold it. Guess what? We settled it.
Yeah.
As a,
So,
Yeah.
as a rule of thumb, don't assert anything that you can't confirm with your own two eyes. And that even means don't say a word as hardwood unless you know it's something like oak. If it's like pine or fir, you really can't call those hardwood. You have to be very clear on what you say about a home and about the features in the home. We had to change the copy for somebody, not in this room.
Yeah.
This wasn't a mistake or anything. But they advertised the home as pergo floors, and then on inspection they realized it wasn't pergo, so we changed it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Pergo is a brand.
Right, exactly. And it
So
wasn't. They
it
weren't
wasn't-
pergo floors.
Same thing with jacuzzi. And
Yeah, right. Jacuzzi is a brand name. You could say a spa tub. Every jacuzzi tub is a spa tub, but not every spa tub is a jacuzzi. What I'm hoping you'll take away from this are all the positive things that you can do to tell a good story, to lead strong, to really paint a picture of why a home is a great home that someone would want to buy. And I want to really end it with one last thought, which is please always take advantage of the marketing department's availability to help you with ad copy. If you want to bounce some ideas off of us, if you want to write something and send it to us and have us give us your opinion of it, we are always very happy to do so. Rusty?
Square footage in an ad.
Yes. Oh,
Acceptable?
yes it is.
Because you never really know exactly what square footage is.
So whatever you have put as square footage in Paragon is what you're asserting on the website is a square footage. Now in the copy, you could say something like approximately 2,000 square feet, if there is some question. And we'll put that in and we'll spell out the word approximately, we don't abbreviate it. Or we've had wording that lists, seller needs to confirm, acreage to the lot line. It's always good to qualify if there's some doubt. But whatever you feel you can legally say in Paragon for square footage, that is what is going to come across on the website. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.